What's going on, everybody? The Real Sharif M here, aka Mangana Steel, your favorite knife designer, with another knife review. And today I am tackling a knife that I've always kind of been curious about, never been a huge fan of, to be 100% honest with you. It's just never been my thing. And today I'm talking about my first Strider. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Sharif. Just want to let you know the pre-order for the Kaimanos is finally live. That's right. You can finally pick yours up now for pre-order, all right? They're available at ms-knives.com. ms-knives.com. You can get the Purple Haze carbon fiber version or this natural micarta version right now. Okay, pre-order shouldn't take too long, hopefully as long as we sell it out, but I need your help. ms-knives.com, ms-knives.com. Make sure you get one today. What's going on, everybody? So here's the deal. I'm editing this video that you're really about to get into, and I realize it's kind of like a laborious, like, little bit of a deep dive into this Strider that I got into. And I honestly got to tell you the truth, the sort of TLDR of my Strider experience after editing this video. And the reality is, damn it, if I didn't become a Strider convert. Like, genuinely. One of the things I didn't realize, that the appreciation for Striders sometimes can be a total slow burn. And that's what really happened to me. Actually, as a matter of fact, as soon as I returned this knife, I needed to go and get my own. So I got this ProTech PT Plus Strider collab, and I love it. It hasn't left my pocket since I got it. And the reality is, I have been searching and learning and trying to understand Striders, because I want to own one. I want to get myself an SNG pretty soon, finances allowing, of course. But that's the TLDR, man, is that, like, I didn't get it. You can see from this video that, like, I'm kind of analyzing it. I'm kind of just, like, being a little intellectual with it. But as we know, like, not all knife purchases and reasons why you like things are intellectual. And that's kind of what happened with me with the Strider. It just got under my dang skin, and it hasn't left, like, at all. Like, not one bit even, which is really interesting. I mean, the only other knives that have really done that lately has been the R&H Tasca, which, watch for that review coming sometime in the future. I have a bunch of videos to edit. Anyways, still, takeaway is weird. If you would have told me, like, a month ago that I would have been into Striders, I would have been looking to own one, that I almost like them more than my Emersons, which is kind of nuts, I would have laughed at you. I really would have. But now I own a little one, and I want a bigger one, and I want a real, like, official one, not just like a push-button auto, and it may not just stop at one. So yeah, guys, that's after watching this, you can watch the video. Please watch the video. I would appreciate it, because there's a lot of little quirks about the Striders that are interesting that I kind of get into with this video. But I just wanted to give you guys with some energy, something that this video is missing, which is the takeaway that I kind of became a Strider guy. Go fucking figure. Now, let's get into the Strider, okay?
Striders have always fascinated me because of their very odd handle shape. As you can see from this guy, there we go, camera, thank you for focusing. They've always had this almost like elongated triangular sort of handle, and my designer brain has always looked at that and said, that can't be comfortable, that can't work. And the reality is somewhere in the middle, genuinely speaking. This particular model that I'm handling is the SMF, and it's an interesting one for sure. First, right off the bat, let me kind of talk about what I dig about this thing before I get into kind of like critiquing it. I like that it's a little bit of a mix of old school and new school. You have like just the chunkiest of chunky steels. And a lot of makers have gotten away from doing this. We're talking like at least 5 millimeters, aka like 1/8 of an inch of steel, along with a nice deep hollow grind. Personally, I love that combination. It's just impossible for you to get this done from, let's say, like a Chinese OEM. They don't even have steel this thick. They just won't do it, you know? But man, there's something about having a nice, fat, thick chunk of steel like this that you know you can just beat and abuse, but also have a really nice, deep hollow for getting that sliciness out of it. Believe it or not, this hole also works really, really well for deploying the knife, which I did not expect. You can slow roll it from the thumb, you can reverse flick it, it all works. And as a single deployment method, I dig it. I dig it. It keeps the lines very clean. Some of the other sort of like old school-ish features are it has this over travel stop right here for the lock bar. It has a bent pocket clip, which, to be frank, is really comfortable. It really is. And part of the reason for that is because it's so low profile. And it does have a good amount of spring tension. And this kicks up, this portion right here, kicks up fairly high. So it actually isn't much of a problem of getting it in and out of pocket. What is really interesting about this particular Strider is how can I explain this? It's not constructed in a style either that I've really seen before on any production knife, but also one that I've never typically been a huge fan of. So the lock side, obviously, is this flame anode titanium, and the show side is this milled G10. But if you look at it, it's almost like, I don't even know how to call this. It's not like sandwich, but it's almost like a wannabe integral kind of approach, right? So like this whole backspacer here, this is part of the G10 scale. It's not a third piece. So this G10 was a fairly large chunk, and it was all milled internally in order to give this construction, which is really, really interesting. It does make for a very solid feeling knife. I will tell you that much. I mean, there's no part actually of this Strider that feels anything but tough as nails. And that's the fundamental truth about it. It just is such an interestingly done knife design that I'm kind of at a loss for words at kind of how to handle or describe it. Now, let's talk a little bit about the ergos from this big boy. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. I mean, this is a big knife, okay? In the traditional grip, this is it in my double extra large hand. You can see it's a large knife. It really is. The thing that really gets me about this, and I'm sure it's by design, is that this peak right here, okay? So this surface transition is by design hitting right here, this little groove in my grip. And it's interesting. I've never had a knife that has done that, ever. And I can't really tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Typically, I avoid hitting that little crease because it does create a bit of a tension point, right? Like if I smack the front of my grip right here, I can feel that point digging into my palm like hard, even though this surface is rounded. And it's not particularly comfortable at all, actually. So I'm not really a fan, generally speaking. Like I tend to, when I design knives, I tend to kind of put a flat section right here in order to transition from the spine to the heel or the back of the knife. And that's largely why. The other reason is because I really want to kind of cradle this mass of muscle, which the Strider does do, but it does it in this very sort of like primitive fashion, right? You can see that right there. Like this is hitting that muscle group that I mentioned, but this is just straight hitting into here and then just kicking out at an angle. And maybe that's why people dig these things. Maybe because for their hands, it's not creating a point of potential discomfort. I'd really have to spend a little bit more time with this guy than I have for that reason. Unfortunately, it's been summer, you know, when I got this knife for review, and it's a little big and a little heavy to carry in shorts, kind of regularly and comfortably. This is definitely more of like a winter carry for me. But having said that, like the reverse grip ergos are absolutely phenomenal. The choke up grip ergos are absolutely phenomenal. Actually, I really like this in a choke up grip. And that brings me to one of my other sort of concerns with a knife like this. Given how big this thing really is, right? I'm not a huge fan of there being a choil here. I just am not. And the reason why is because it's a big enough handle, big enough sort of grip, realistically speaking, that if the grind came back to here and I got that extra like half an inch almost, if not almost like 3/4 of an inch of blade, I wouldn't need to choke up. I mean, I've got a solid grip. I can just power through everything with this. For me to have a finger choil on a knife this large, I feel more like I'm losing blade than anything else. I do feel that when you have a 3-finger knife, in your grip, it's nice to have a finger choil there because you have a small knife. You want to be able to shift your grip up to get a proper four-finger grip in order to leverage and utilize the blade as much as possible. But when you have a big old beast like this, I don't see the need for this finger choil. I genuinely don't. And that's something that I've learned and matured to appreciate as I've become kind of a more refined knife designer. What's going on, guys? Sharif from the future here. And after I recorded my review of this guy, the big old Strider SMF, I wanted to see if there were any Striders that would really resonate with me. So I spent actually quite some time looking on Arizona custom knives and things like that. And I'm sure there are some of you who know Striders much better than me, who really would call me an idiot for not loving the finger choil thing here, or wishing that there was a Strider without one, because it's definitely a signature design trait of his, even down to his smallest of knives. Having said that, though, I have come to the conclusion that if I was going to own a Strider, it would probably be an SNG and not this SMF. The reason why is because the SNG is a little bit smaller. It's closer in proportion to a Paramilitary 2 or a PM2 from Spyderco. And while I don't like the finger choil on the Spyderco either, I would much rather have a beefier knife like the SNG that has that finger choil, personally. The SNG tends to be a little bit smaller than this guy, and also tends to have a little bit less cutting edge. But because of that, I can justify having the finger choil more. And I do think that it would fall into hand just a little bit better. Now, having said that, I also did test this guy with some of my tactical gloves. And with tactical gloves, I'm confident I would prefer this SMF. And it definitely has that I'm a tool first kind of vibe, which, I mean, that's why I appreciate Emerson's, really. And I get shit for liking Emerson's all day, but this definitely is a user kind of knife. I feel that. I feel like putting this in a safe and not using it would really be a massive, massive disservice. Now, one of the other really kind of curious elements about this knife to me, which I find really fascinating and I've never seen done on another knife before, is this. When you open it, the stop pin here, or the pin here, acts as a stop against the titanium and the G10, right? Pretty typical fare for a knife and a knife design in general. But you'll notice when it closes, that pin does not actually hit the chassis or the body at all, actually. And the reason for that is because of this G10 scale full backspacer sort of ordeal. The actual stop for the blade is milled into this backspacer, which I think is really cool. And I'm going to have to take a note for that on one of my future designs. I think it's definitely a unique take that I've never seen before. So, have I come away from this being a Strider convert? Maybe. Maybe. I may need to find one that I really like, that doesn't have a finger choil and maybe is a touch smaller than this guy. As much as I do appreciate its chunkiness and its intensity, I'd be really curious to see what a slightly smaller one would be like. But have I really converted to thinking that these things are the amazing, nonstop, perfect knives that a lot of the Strider fans make them out to be? Definitely not. I gotta say though, huge thank you again to Mr. Claire for letting me borrow this one and check it out. It's a beast. It definitely is. It's a unique and interesting knife, without question. And it will always kind of resonate in my memory as one of the unique American knife brands and unique American knives. That's for dang sure.